You know, you try to spread the message, give the information for people to process, and sometimes it still isn't enough. And I'm gonna be honest here, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes I have doubt.
I have such doubts.
And I'm not talking about those little bitch doubts either.
You know, I think I feel a little iffy today. Just a little bit.
Not those kind of doubts, but those fuck my life, fuck the whole universe kind of doubts.
I have serious fucking doubt, bro!
You didn't think this was about quitting veganism now, was it? What do you think I am, this dumb shit here? Ha! To quit on veganism is to quit on science and compassion. At least from a very simplistic stance, at least. You see, I recently engaged in a small conversation a few months ago with a fellow who has a channel called Keto for Diabetes. And as you can see from the name of that YouTube/Google name, it's enough to let you know how much misinformation, or at least the high amounts of misinterpretation that is currently out there. Now, I'm just going to be using Keto for Diabetes as an example. And for the record, this is not a bashing video against the fellow who runs that channel. I believe the young man who runs that channel, his name is Rashad. So, hi Rashad, I'm Jason. I'm simply here to dispel this myth about how sugar causes diabetes, because I've heard this non-science backed statement way too many times, and it just needs to be put to bed already. And quite honestly, I'm getting really fucking tired of listening to this non-science backed dramatic crap! I will show what causes diabetes based on what the science says, and I will also spot some of the fallacies Keto for Diabetes stated in his one video where he speaks about diabetes. To begin with, let's establish what diabetes is, which, by the way, I'll only be addressing type 2 diabetes, as type 1 diabetes is a autoimmune disease that usually isn't self-inflicted like the majority of people who are currently suffering with type 2 diabetes. So what is type 2 diabetes? Type 2 diabetes, in a nutshell, is known as an insulin resistance issue. Essentially, the body does not create enough insulin, or someone's pancreas does not create enough insulin to allow the excess glucose in the bloodstream to enter cells and tissue of the body. This can cause problems as elevated blood glucose levels in the bloodstream can strain the kidneys and other organs. It can restrict blood flow in the blood vessels, which can affect vision and the extremities and a few other potential issues. So the big question is, why does an individual develop this insulin resistance issue, and why isn't someone's pancreas not creating enough insulin to allow the excess glucose in the bloodstream to exit the bloodstream and enter cells and tissue? Here's why. Intramyocellular lipids, short for IMCL, which is just a fancy way of saying fat in muscles, cells, and tissue. Fat in muscles, tissue, and cells, and in particular the liver, is what inhibits the insulin receptor cells to allow insulin to do its job. It's not the sugar, it's the fat. There's this huge misconception that sugar is the cause of insulin resistance, which could not be any further from the truth. Although refined sugar itself is not necessarily making things better, so please do not misinterpret what I'm saying here. By no means am I saying that table sugar or white sugar is necessarily a health food for humans to consume, but sugar or glucose from plants do not exacerbate insulin resistance, but improve it, as shown in this study where these subjects were forced to eat a whole food plant-based diet and were able to either reverse or dramatically improve insulin sensitivity without weight loss. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I have yet to see a study showing reversal of type 2 diabetes or improvement of type 2 diabetes on a high animal fat diet without weight loss. Unfortunately, this will never happen because we already know what causes type 2 diabetes. It's the fat clogging the muscles, tissues, cells, and in particular, the liver. But sugar can turn to fat, can it? Yes, sugar can turn to fat along with any other macronutrients, whether it be proteins, carbohydrates, fats, it doesn't really matter. Any calories eaten above maintenance or total energy expenditure will be stored directly as fat or will be filtered back to the liver to become fat. Point being, stop being such a glutton and eating so much refined bullshit that is loaded with sugar or processed junk, and you won't have to worry about sugar turning into fat. And to put the final nail in the coffin here, anybody ever heard of a doctor named Walter Kempner? He's the founder of the rice diet. The famous diet consisted of white rice, fruit juices, dried fruit, and white sugar. Scratch that shit. It was a shitload of white sugar, ranging from 100 to 500 grams of white sugar a day for the subjects or the patients that were under Dr. Kempner's care. Dr. Kempner used the rice diet to reverse or at least improve coronary artery disease, heart and kidney failure, hypertension, arthritis, and can you guess? Obesity and diabetes. If sugar is the cause of obesity and diabetes, then how was the average weight loss of the 106 participants or patients that were under Dr. Kempner's care during this experiment lose an average of 140 pounds while following the rice diet? Maybe it's because sugar doesn't make someone fat, and it's a consistent caloric surplus that causes someone to be fat. We've already discussed what causes type 2 diabetes, so we're not going to go over that again. I don't want this to be misinterpreted either. I by no means am I saying that sugar in excess is a good thing to consume. I'm just presenting some science to show you it's not the sugar in of itself that causes obesity or diabetes, because if it did, then the participants would have gotten fatter and sicker. But hold on a second. Inuits though. Here's why you need to do your research and not just listen to any talking head that publishes a book. And when I say research, I'm specifically talking about peer-reviewed scientific literature. The Inuits are not exactly the healthiest group of people to follow, though the Inuits may have had lower cases of diabetes hundreds of years ago, just like any tribe or group of people that lived off the land. Today, their health is starting to diminish and diabetes is becoming very prevalent among them, mainly due to the westernization of their culture. Although the Inuit culture is more westernized, the traditional Greenlandic foods still make up a significant portion of their diets. The main causes of their increases in diabetes are mainly due to hereditary reasons, obesity, and diet. And even if the Inuit did have lower cases of diabetes, would it really matter? Inuits are terribly sick with atherosclerotic diseases like ischemic heart disease that is comparable to white populations in North America and Europe. Besides, we know what causes diabetes from a physiological stance, so the only reason the Inuit would be having less cases of diabetes would have to do with lifestyle. Who wants to live like an Inuit? Most people could probably use the extra exercise and activity. I'm not going to disagree there. But I imagine that weather has got to be a bitch. Right? You see, it's not what Gary Taub says that is going to keep you healthy. Hell, it's not even what Dr. Greger says that will keep you healthy. It's what the science says. It's the science.
This is not the Dr. Greger diet versus the Dr. Atkins diet. It's the science. It's centuries of science versus the latest fad that someone wants to sell books over.
Oh, don't get it wrong. I like Dr. Greger, but my opinion and Dr. Greger's opinion means jack shit to what the facts are. You see, the problem with society is there's all this shit thrown in your face in the form of YouTube videos, commercials, books, advertisements, and through all different types of medias, and it's all conflicting and it's unnecessary. Unnecessary conflict is rarely a good thing, so we resort to the special snowflake effect or mentality, or what I like to call the fuck it all mentality, which goes along the lines of you have to follow the diet that works for you. This is partly true as long as people are fueling their body with the foods they're designed to eat. You see, human physiology is not designed to be in a state of carb-restricted ketosis that sways starvation by eating obscene amounts of calories from fat. The human body does not need or benefit from consuming exogenous cholesterol or high amounts of saturated fat or trans fats or hormones or animal proteins, heterocyclic amines, or excessive amounts of AGEs. If you think you are this individual who needs to consume these substances that are intended for obligatory omnivores or carnivores, then I'm sorry to inform you that you have unfortunately fallen into the special snowflake trap. And you, my friend,
are not a special snowflake. You are a human organism, more or less just like me.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And just for the record, that was Mark Ripito, who's a very complicated man who knows jack shit about nutrition. But that's okay, because I'm going to be opening that can of whoop ass very, very soon. He does know how to get someone strong, though. I'm not going to question that. Should probably just stick to talking about strength and leave the nutrition talk to the ones who are willing to do the work and look at the facts. Anyhow, and I'll repeat this again, just because someone writes a book, that doesn't mean that they're a reliable source of scientific facts. They're not necessarily wrong as long as they have referenced their facts or scientific literature correctly. So that about wraps it up for now. If you have any disagreements as to what causes diabetes or obesity for that matter, please let me know in the comment sections down below, and please make sure to attach your peer-reviewed science to refute the science I have shown you, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. You know I appreciate every single one of you. Feel free to hit the like, subscribe, and ding dong button. You know who I am. I'm the Natural Hulk. So I want to thank you for watching, and please stay tuned for the next one.